Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Welcome everyone. I recently bought a large collection that included a 1968 Topps baseball complete set here in this binder, and it's a really nice set, sort of a mid-grade set on average. It's more mixed grade. There's some lower grade cards and some higher grade cards, and overall it's pretty mid-grade about EX. And yeah, this I obviously went through the set really closely when I was buying it, but this is the first time this video here is the first time I'm actually going through it again, card by card. And I won't spoil the ending here. The 1968 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie, of course, is the key card in the set, and it was really nice, but it does have a notable flaw. But on the front here, you can see it looks really nice. It's centered, centered pretty well, not perfectly centered, but corners are sharp. There's no surface issues, but the problem is the back. It's cut. It's off centered. It's so off centered that it would be miscut. So if you sent this to PSA, it would get an MC qualifier almost for sure. That's unfortunate because that sort of takes away a lot of the potential upside of the grading the card here, or grading cards out of the set. But I knew that when I bought it, so that was all factored in. The set as is probably about a $2,000 set, maybe a little bit more than that. But with a set like this, you want to go through it and check out some of the higher dollar cards for potential upside with grading. Like obviously if there's a card in there that's a PSA 8 or a 9, it's a key star, well that can add hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars to the value. So that's obviously something to look for here. There's a nice league leaders card here with Roberto Clemente and Hank Aaron and Orlando Cepeda, 3 Hall of Famers and two all-time greats. But quick glance suggested that one was not a PSA contender or a grading contender. But commons are going to really need to be like 9s for it to make sense, and this set didn't have 9 level cards. But stars could probably be 7s, 8s, and major stars can even be lower 5s. Here's a Tom Seaver. This is his second year, but it's actually his first year where he's all alone on a card. His rookie card's a year earlier, 1967, but he shares that. So this is his first solo card, and this card's super sharp. And this is a good example of a card that is a grading contender. Look, it's centered well. It's got pretty sharp corners, a nice clean back and front. It's probably like a 7-ish range. So I'll at some point look that up and see what those sell for and decide if that's going to make sense. Same with the Willie Mays here. Really nice card. Yeah, a little bit off centered left to right, but I mean a lot of beauties in this set. Look at the back, very clean. No chipping along the back edges, which is very common with this sort of bright yellow background. But yeah, the Seaver and the Mays are two that I will definitely consider. And I mentioned earlier that this is probably about a $2,000 set as is, maybe a little bit more. And I don't know exactly what I paid for it. It was part of a large collection. I just paid one bulk price, but it was probably in the vicinity of like $1,500 or so, 75%. So if I were to sell this as is and let's say get $2,000 for it, I'd make a little bit of money after you factor in fees and stuff, maybe a couple $100. But I'm willing to pay strong on sets like this, and most dealers are, because the potential upside in grading. And sometimes you'll buy a set like this and there just won't be any cards to grade, and you just take your very small profit. But on other times, there'll be a big hit and you can really see some nice upside. And other times there'll just be a few small ups and increases, and you can add a little bit of value. So obviously when you have a 600 card set, you can't go through every card in close detail while you're buying it, or I guess you could, but a lot of times you don't have the time for that. And so that's something you sort of have to take your best guess on and see where you land later on. The Hank Aaron here, another really nice one, centered really well. The corners are a little bit tipped, so this is not like a high grade card, but this could be a 5 or a 6 solidly, and that's a card that Hank Aaron's one of the key cards in the set, obviously, so that's one that may be worth sending in at that level. And depending on how many cards I decide are worth sending to PSA, I then have to decide, am I going to break the set up, or am I going to send those cards to PSA and then sell it as a set with graded cards, in which case I can ask a lot more for it. This Tony Perez has a really high book value. I don't quite know why, but I checked it for that reason. Yeah, I mean it's pretty nice, but I'm gonna have to check if what PSA values are on that card, because Tony Perez is sort of like a low end Hall of Famer, if you will, but for some reason it just books real high in the Beckett. And I'm using the Beckett magazine there on the right. I'll talk about that in just a sec. Bob Clemente, Roberto Clemente, he's obviously a key card in the set. The main key cards are the Ryan rookie, the bench rookie, and the mantle, but Clemente's in that next tier. Clemente, Aaron, Mays, Pete Rose, etc. But Clemente is really nice as well. Look at this. It's just some really nice beauties here. It's probably about a 7 or so, 6 or 7. Tiniest bit off-centered, but just a really nice card. This is overall a really nice set. I mean, there's like I said, some cards that are lower grade, and a lot of cards that are sort of mid grade. But there's some just really, really nice cards. The hole there is for the Nolan Ryan card number 177. I know that by heart, which suggests I've been doing this a little bit too long here. But I use the Beckett magazine not for the prices. The prices really aren't useful, but it does help when you're going through a set. You just look at the list and see which cards have a high book value, and those are the ones to check on first glance. And I'll obviously go through this with a much more fine-tooth comb again. But this is just the first look. The Pete Rose was sort of weird. It has a very, very awkward cut. I mean, this would get authentic. It would not grade. You look at the left border. I don't know if you can see it, but it has like a wavy left border cut. It's just not straight. I don't know what's going on there, but the card is. I don't think it's altered. I think it's something that just happened at the factory. I don't know, but it would get authentic. So obviously that's not a card to consider. And in fact, if I go to sell the set, I may even try to replace that, because that is sort of a notable, knock against the set if someone were to buy it. Most like set collectors or builders want their set pretty uniform. Here's the Johnny Bench rookie, which is really nice. This would be a no-brainer PSA card. Now it is off-centered on the back, but PSA is pretty lenient with back centering. Otherwise, it's really, really nice. Yeah, it's centered really well, as you can see there. A beautiful card here. But as I was mentioning, set builders and set collectors, they generally want their sets pretty uniform. There's low-grade set builders and collectors. There's mid-grade set builders and collectors. There's high-grade set builders and collectors. So when you go to sell a set like this, it's much easier to sell it if the cards are uniform. And so that's why I might consider upgrading that Pete Rose, because it's a notable card that doesn't sort of fit the overall grade of the set. The mantle here is a beauty. It looks great and has no real issues. I mean, it's obviously not perfect. It's a little off-centered, and it has some light tipped corners, but you can see very little chipping on the back. It's very clean. This is a no-brainer grading contender, probably like in the 6 range type of thing. And the mantle is I think it's the number 2 card in the set in terms of value, after the Nolan Ryan rookie, and just ahead of the Johnny Bench rookie. And just going back to the uniform thing, I sell a lot of vintage lots on eBay, and I've just found that the more uniform the lots are, the just easier they are to sell. The more people are interested in them. Mixed grade lots sort of have a lot of red flags. What does mixed grade mean? Whereas if you can say basically all the cards are EX to X mint, then that'll just draw a lot more interest. Here's a Roger Maris, which was a no-brainer, not grading contender. Fairly significant rounded corners and even a light surface crease. So not something to consider sending in. And it makes sense, right? It's even a very cool thing about collectors and vintage collecting, is that you can put together a set like this based on your budget. Ernie Banks here is very strong, centered nicely, and no real flaws. Lightly tipped corners, and that's basically it. This is probably like a 7 contender, and I'll check values on that, but this is probably one to strongly consider. And so it's looking like there's probably going to be at least 5 to 10 cards worth sending into to PSA. Here's some of the All-Stars, bunch of Hall of Famers: Killebrew, Joe Morgan, Brooks Robinson, Yaz, Rod Carew, etc. More of them: Frank Robinson, there's Roberto Clemente and Hank Aaron, Lou Brock, Bob Gibson. And yeah, there's probably going to be, like I said, 5 to 10 cards at least worth sending into PSA. And that does mean, as a seller, I won't be able to sell this anytime soon. And as someone who makes a living doing this, that is something you have to consider, right? Money management and things like that. In this particular case, it's not really an issue, but it will also create a decision for me down the road, as I mentioned, which is, once I get the cards back, do I sell it as a set with graded cards, or do I break it up, sell the graded cards as singles, and break up the rest of the set as I see fit? And that's going to mainly depend on how the grades do. Like if I get any home run grades, the mantle gets an 8 or a 9, it's not going to get an 8 or 9. But let's just say it got a really high grade and it's now a 4-figure card. Then I would be more inclined to break it up and sell them as singles. Whereas if the card sort of got grades that just lightly increase the values of individual cards a little bit, I'd probably sell it as a complete set and do it that way. Here's a nice triple player card, Manager's Dream. You got Tony Oliva, Chico Cardenas, and Roberto Clemente. This card's quite sharp as well, and is a grading contender. And I don't think there's any home runs in this set. You never know with PSA, but it doesn't appear to be any home runs. There appear to be a number of cards that will increase the value a decent amount, a little bit, by getting it graded. And here's the last sort of big money card in the set. Triple cards, superstars of Harmon Killebrew, Willie Mays, and Mickey Mantle. That is a lot of star power on one card. 3 500 home run hitters, all 3 of them. And, you know, Willie Mays, top 5 player of all time, no question. Mantle, obviously, you know, the hobby darling for vintage, one of the, I don't know, 15 greatest players of all time. Killebrew, no slouch as well. All 3 in the Hall of Fame, and all 3, I'm gonna guess, were first ballot Hall of Famers, although I don't know that for sure without looking it up. Frank Robinson there, and yeah, like I said, so, you know, if anything comes back huge, a surprise hit, you know, then I might be more inclined to break it up. Or if there was just one major hit, I might replace it and sell that card as a single and replace it with another card in the set. Here's a nice double card of Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson. Two superstars for my Baltimore Orioles. This Detroit Tigers team card has a really high book value. I'm not sure why. It doesn't say it's short print. It is in the high number series here, but the 68 high numbers aren't really that rare or anything special. They're just sort of like a little bit rarer than the other series. Now, this one had a crease. I'm not sure if you can see it, but yeah, it had a crease, so certainly not a grading contender. That's one I might even upgrade for when I go to sell the set. Just, you know, just don't want to have low grade cards of any key cards in the set if you want to, you know, claim that it's a legit mid grade EX set. So, you know, as we get down to the end here, what's looking like it's probably going to happen is, you know, I'll probably pull out roughly 10-ish cards for grading and send them in. And obviously we'll have to wait a few months then. But once they come back, based on the grades, I'll reevaluate. And again, if there's any home runs, I'll probably sell the home runs as singles, and maybe replace them, you know, with a raw card into the set. And then sell the set with some graded cards. Any of the graded cards that are not home runs will just sell as a part of the complete set. And now, you know, if I have a 68 mid-grade set with, you know, 10 key cards graded in the 5, 6, or 7 range, that's going to look a lot better than just a raw mid-grade set. And so, you know, maybe instead of 2,000, I can get, you know, 3,000 for it. And so, just, you know, quick numbers, I probably had to invest about $200 to PSA to upgrade that value from 2,000 to 3,000. Hopefully I can do better than that, but that's I would say sort of a likely scenario based on, you know, first glance here. But thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to reach out via the comments below. And yeah, see you again next time. Thanks everyone.